Is everyone seeing my screen now? Hopefully, because it's not allowing me to advance it. Hold on one moment. Okay, let me just here real quick. I'll just do another. I'm just going to do another sharing of the screen. Present, and that should help. Okay. I think we are good. So, all right. Great. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining me tonight to talk about our webinar of the evening, or talk about the topic of the evening, which is moving away from a long-term career and maybe changing direction in what you want to do. This is the topic of great interest to RPCVs, I think, in general, because we tend to like change and maybe view more of your career as multifaceted or a mosaic type of a piece of art, if you will, instead of just you go to school, you get whatever training, and you do one career or even two careers the rest of your life. So, this is something that I think is a very popular topic. So, I welcome you all and thank you for being here with me to talk about this. Let's go ahead and get started. My name first is Jody Hammer, and I know many of you who've been joining me every week, maybe, or quite often, know who I am. But for those of you who are new, I see some new names and faces. My name's Jody Hammer, and I am also an RPCV. I served in Ecuador from 94 through 97. Fabulous experience. And I currently work as the career support specialist, career services specialist with NPCA, their global reentry program, which is designed to provide career and transitional assistance to RPCVs overall, not only the evacuees, but certainly them, as well as folks who've maybe been back longer. So great to have you here with us. So I wanted to start with this slide, basically just this quote, right? Nearly 80% of workers, this is in a study, 80% of workers in their 20s said they wanted a career change, right? 64% of 30 somethings and 54%, of the more seasoned professionals and such in their 40s, right? So that's a pretty high percentage that want to change, right? Gone are the days of my grandparents' age, for example, and their era, where they would do one thing and they would do that their entire life. They may change a company, but it was the same thing. Or they may stay with one company for 40 years and retire, and that, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not the reality for most people today. Most do want a little more, maybe, variety, and they might have many reasons, and we'll talk about the many, many reasons why people are looking for a change at whatever stage, but particularly after having held a long-term career. So why do you think that so many people are looking to change, careers and such? Do you have any thoughts or ideas based on your own experience or other people's experience? And if so, just drop those in the chat box. I have the chat box here next to me, and you can certainly drop those in if there are any thoughts. Tech changes rapidly. Yes, absolutely, right? Maybe the job that you're in is suddenly or becomes more and more tech focused, and maybe you're one of those folks who, aren't interested in tech as much, right? And so that might be the case for changing. Or maybe you are more advanced in tech, and so you want to be a part of the newer things that are coming out and the newest, latest, greatest. So that could totally weigh in. That's a really good one. Thank you so much. Need a challenge, Christina. That's a great one. A lot of people get, they get very, they get into a new career, and the first stage is really learning it, right? And you learn it. And once you learn it and you have it down and you're excelling in it, that's great because you're doing well in your job. But if you're the kind of person who likes a new challenge or likes to always be learning something, unless there are things that you can incorporate into that new job, and that's definitely something to explore before absolutely deciding you have to change, because maybe it would just be a part change where maybe a new responsibility of yours could actually fulfill that feeling of, wanting, some variety and such, in which case it may be a lot easier for you if you like a lot of things about the company, but really feel like you want more, of a challenge. you might start by actually talking to your boss and in the organization to see if there's some other things you could, work on and kind of broaden your focus or change or whatnot. So absolutely. But that's a really good reason. Peace Corps, let's see, one's taste for change, addictive. Yes, exactly. That it can be. And that's a really good point. Thanks so much. Uh, there's looking for something fulfilling, same kind of thing. Maybe you liked it at once, or maybe you didn't, and you just kind of got, more and more along in the career, and it was the easy thing to do, or maybe there were other priorities taking, that shifted that you had to just focus on other things. So this job that you're in, that you've been in for a long time, is, while you know it very well, you're bored and you want, something more fulfilling. It doesn't really, speak to your gut. We're going to talk a lot about your gut as well, and listening to your gut, and how important that can be in determining those kinds of positions. So absolutely, that's great. Want to switch, Rachel? Good one. Want to switch from nonprofit to for-profit business? That's great. And I always like when we're doing these sessions and in the chat box, for example, if there's somebody that says something, like for example, if we have anyone who's listening in who is working in private sector, or for profit, who might be willing to chat with Rachel. I love that you can take that opportunity to private message her and let her know, hey, happy to talk to you. Do you have questions? And you can exchange information. And from this event, not only have you, listened to a webinar and participated in a webinar on whatever topic, you also come out of it with a networking contact, somebody who can maybe give you more insight into certain aspects of the private sector or whatever the case may be. So that's great. Rachel, I hope you get contacted by some folks from this. Awesome. Let's see, Megan, what Kathleen said, learning. Let me see here. This is let's do Katie, better future job security for living in a remote rural community. Okay. Also want better financial security than the nonprofit sector generally offers. That's a really good reason as well, Katie. And it sounds like that's your personal reason, and a very strong one, right? Job security is important, and especially, when you are when you maybe have dependents, or there's other things that you need to think about, and when you're talking about living in a certain area that may or may not be as strong in certain sectors. So you want to make sure that you have something that does have more of that security. So great. Gosh, you all are coming out with some great ones. Thank you so much. Excellent. Yes, please. A lot of great, what Jim said. Okay. Wonderful. So at mid-level advancement becomes competitive. Yes. Pressure to please instead of challenge the leadership. Yep. And that really is a big one. Kristen, thank you for sharing that. It can, I think, your competition, it's, and oftentimes you're funneled into certain kinds of jobs, right? Because to move up, you're moving in a certain direction, which oftentimes means management. And that may or may not be something that you really want to do. Not everyone loves management, right? Uh, I certainly don't. I much prefer the client work and the one-on-one and the training and, working with groups and things like that. I like the physical, and right now, of course, virtual connection, with my clients, right? With the population that I'm serving, versus managing and handling the larger scope things, which are just as important, equally important, mind you, but it's finding your passion and where you want to fit into that. And so sometimes in certain organizations, maybe you're like me and you don't really want to do the management and get more into the global, thing of it, and less client, but there's not other opportunities. So maybe that dictates it. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Good. Well, we have some really good reasons here shared, which is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So career changes, as I said, we're going to be talking about career changing and stepping away from a long-term career, right? For both mid and later career professionals. And I'm kind of looking at this as a little, if you're interested as a mid-career professional, or later career professional, in more of a deep dive than what we're going to be able to do in the course of just this hour, we are actually we're rolling it out. We're rolling out a new boot camp that, if you remember, last fall we did a job search job searcher boot camp. So it was for anyone doing a job, search, that kind of thing. This one is going to be similar to that, structured similar around some of the same resources and such, but it's focused specifically on the mid-career professional, and I would put the later career professional into that as well, right? So it's not tailored for the brand new newbie who's just coming out, or maybe went to Peace Corps right after, college, and they're coming back and they're looking now. This one's more focused on you, the probably a lot of the folks who are on this webinar, right, who are mid-career or later career professionals. So talking about some of the unique aspects and the challenges, but also strategies, and really diving into, utilizing some of these free resources that you have access to through Dr. Rhonda Anstead, who's the host of that event, and I support her. And really, she developed My Career Design Studio, which is this great online assistance to like helping you get where you want to go and doing the job search. And she allows 4 months free use by any RPCV. So that's great. And you can get onto that. She uses that as a base to take people through some of the different approaches. It's really, I've gone through it. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's going to be a really good session. So it's rolling out in April. It's going to start, we're breaking it into two. You apply for it. You're going to see it go out on the Global Reentry newsletter, which is going to go out tomorrow. It's supposed to go out tomorrow. And you'll see a whole little, couple paragraphs on it's called the Mid-Career Relaunch Boot Camp is what we're calling it. And what we're doing, we have a registration form that you fill out. And depending on if you don't really have clarity on what you want to do, if you do have clarity on what you want to do, but you're like, okay, how do I get there? How do I do a job search to change from this career to the other? All of that. You will the boot camp starts, the official boot camp starts April 15th, which is a Thursday afternoon from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, DC time, that is. For those who don't have clarity on what they want to do, we're offering a pre-boot camp for 2 weeks, and it's just 2 Thursday sessions from 2 to 3:45, and then homework in between to help you gain clarity, help point you in the direction of resources to help you, and things you can do to get a little more of an idea of the kinds of things that you might want to do, because then we can all start together more or less at the same, stage, and really, deep dive in going, how to get there, all of that. So if you are interested in that, look for the Global Reentry newsletter. You could also look at the events page, peacecorpsconnect.org/events. And if you look on the date of, I think we put it on April 15th, you could also, register through there. You need to make sure that you click on the attending, and you also do the questionnaire. It's a Google form that's linked in there. So enough of a promotion on that, but I just want to put it out there because I feel like it's the perfect kind of an opportunity this is the perfect audience for it. So I just want to give you kind of preference. So great. So lots of reasons, right, that you have for changing, and we're going to get more into those, whether you just know you need a change and you're, feeling stagnant, or as someone said, wanting more challenge, that kind of thing, or, hey, it's going to be too late if I don't do it now. I got to do it now or never, right? So there's lots more reasons than this that we're going to talk about as well, right? But oftentimes career change, especially in, I think, the mid-career to later career, it's much more of trying to sometimes move toward more fulfillment. And of course, the opposite way to say that would be away from whatever's discouraging you or whatever the issue is, right? There's a lot of things that can happen that can be present in, organizations, whether it's a toxic work environment or, the work-life balance is not good, things like that. But there's I think this graphic of career change, like, okay, you either do it or you stay in this dead end zone and you continue to probably be unhappy, maybe get more unhappy, and then feel more desperate about, where you are and such. So I think it is the kind of thing that, if you're feeling you want to change, honor that and start exploring. And we're going to talk more about, that as well. But you want to obviously have that kind of fulfillment, whatever fulfillment to you means, right? So reasons that people change. You've said some of these already, right? But I just want to get some of them up here, a lot of these up there, right? So better work-life balance. And that's a really important one, right? Your reality is very different than when you were maybe a 20-something. year old where you could work those long hours. It didn't matter. You were alone. You didn't, or you certainly didn't have maybe kids. Those kinds of things, didn't really matter. But now where you're at, whether it's you have kids or grandkids, for example, for people who are maybe in the later stages of their career and looking at, what's going on and wanting to change, it might be because they want better work-life balance for that kind of family. It's you look at your family, which is so important, right? And I sometimes hear of people, about the stories of people, regretting, they move toward retirement and they have just been that up, up, up. They've gotten promoted. They've always just been on that like constant moving up, right? But the things that they've sacrificed and that they come to realize later, and of course there's no going back, right? So those regrets it's unfortunate. Yes, they moved up, they had more money, they whatever, but it's, wow, giving up on, that sense of family or that better work-life balance can have health implications even. And then they have maybe, health implications for the rest of their life. I mean, it's so that can be sad too. And a reason why people might want to move from, a career, even a long-standing one that they, have gained a reputation in and all of that, and move into something else. Other times it can be things like, limited, if any, opportunity for advancement. Maybe you've kind of tapped the top of what you can do, where you can be promoted in your area, and you want to advance more. And so, if you potentially move over to a different company or a different, field altogether, there would still be opportunities for growth and advancement. So it could be, you're not feeling like you're making a difference, or you're feeling undervalued or maybe not valued by, management or coworkers. You might have a toxic work environment and all of that, where those are those negative kind of things where it's like, yes, absolutely. If you're in that type of a situation, don't just buck it up and say, oh, I'm too close to, whatever to think about changing. I'll only be working another 10 years. 10 years can be a very long time if you're in something that you're, miserable in, right? So, and other times, it can be, that's kind of what I alluded to, that disconnection from the impact of, your work. I have managed before, and I'm just not, I would much prefer to be the person who's in the room doing the client interaction, that kind of thing, because that's what helps me feel connected to what I'm doing, right? Or the trainees that are in the room, that kind of thing, right? And so if I were in a situation, and I've been in situations where I was more in the management and it just was not, I didn't have enough of that. I ended up still doing, much of the client stuff, but then, it's the time to do everything else, and work-life balance suffers and all of that. So if that relates to, if any of you can relate to that, absolutely. Ceiling, you hit the ceiling. Oftentimes we associate that with the glass ceiling, which is, very frustrating. Hopefully you break through that, right? But it could be other types of ceilings too, right? Maybe salary wise, you're at a level where you're not going to be able to go up anymore. And, your situation, or, what you want in life, what you need to, whatever is different than that. It's more than that. So maybe you have to think about leaving to get a salary that you might be comfortable with and such. So it could be also things like, lack of a positive feedback. Like, when you've been there for a long time, your management probably gets pretty comfortable with you oftentimes, right? Where they trust you, they know you're going to do a good job. So they're very hands off, even more so. And then that equates into you're not getting that feedback, which may be integral to you for your own sense of, feeling valued. And so that could be part of it as well, right? And then lastly on this list here, and there's many more, right? These are just some examples. Wanting a flexible work environment, maybe flexible work options. And I think right now, of course, with COVID, we are all experiencing, ultimate flexibility with, teleworking and all of that. There are other ways to, to have flexibility, but some companies, don't have that kind of flexibility and won't even after COVID. And so you may not be able to work remote, and maybe you want to work remote and be at your beach house for your last 5 plus years. I mean, who knows, right? I think we've proved in this whole pandemic that we are able to get what we need to get done. So there might be more lenience in that too. But those are some of the reasons. Okay. So, some of the reasons, on the other hand, that people stay in those unfulfilling careers, and we've alluded to some of these already, But, it can be the stability and the benefits, right? I mean, you have a good thing going in terms of you have the best health insurance and, other benefits and vacation. You've been there for X period of time, which gives you all this like vacation, that you have. I mean, there's just all of those kinds of things, right? Can be really good. And when you're thinking about making a drastic career change, I think as any of you would realize, there's a huge differential in different sectors in terms of what the benefits are, what the health insurance, what, all those kinds of how much you pay, if anything, all of that. So there's a lot of, those can be kind of the same with the second one here with the, you're very comfortable there. You have the golden handcuffs that they oftentimes associate with, for example, a lawyer, right? You went to school, you got all this, debt, but also the experience and such. And then you get into that, into that job, and you're kind of, you've got to pay off your your loans, right? And it's hard to find some other job that's going to pay at the level that maybe you're being compensated. So it's hard to walk away from that, right? Even if maybe you're not as happy or whatever, that can make it people resist leaving because of that. Also external pressures, right? So it could be, maybe it's, if you have a family, right? Maybe this job is close to your parents where you can help them with elder care. Or maybe it's you live currently in this area where your child is, in a school that's really good, but if you moved somewhere for another job or you left, whatever, you wouldn't be able to be in that school. So you don't want to disrupt that. So there's all these additional, right, external types of things, right, that you're prioritizing when you're thinking about leaving and all of that. But another one can really be just that lack of energy or motivation. Perhaps you're in the situation where you're comfortable. You're not like thrilled with the job, but you can do it really well. You've got it down to a science, so you can get it done in maybe less time than it even takes, and enjoy more downtime. So
Hey,
in those,
Jody.
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we're having a chat sort of on the chat, and we are wondering if you're referencing slides that we can't see.
You are not able to see the slides?
No, we're looking at this slide that you started in the intro, the new direction
Oh
and the Reuters
my
quote.
goodness, you are kidding. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that didn't come to light until now. Yes, I am referencing slides. So and it looked like I was sharing. Let me go ahead and see. I'll just share from the start here, and my goodness, I will back up and just show you at least what we had to. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Megan.
Megan, actually, but you're
Oh, Megan.
welcome. And it was a bunch of, it was
There we go. You saw
Katie
that.
Wallace that started.
Okay. Well,
Wasn't me.
thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, and especially for verbalizing, because when I'm in present mode, I'm really not as much paying attention to the and counting on my colleague where she's, responding to some of the other things. So yeah. So the first slide that I showed was just that the direction, and I gave that quote. So you all heard that at least, right? But career change and what it's about, increasing your level of fulfillment in what you want is generally what it comes down to. And then
we're still only seeing
We still don't see the slides though, Jody.
that is so weird. Okay, let me Danielle, can you please check and see if you are the host now?
No, I'm still the co-host.
It says that I'm the host. This is so weird. Okay, hold on. Let me just go in one more time here. Thank you. This is I've never had this happen actually. Let me pull up participants. I did pull you up and I'm listed. Am I showing where it says host? Yes, I'm showing as the host. So it should, let me just do this. Here we go. I'll just start from see if you can get this now okay. Can you see it now?
Why people stay at unfulfilling careers? Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I'm going back just while I'm chatting here so you can see it. Really, what I was talking about is it's just the graphic that goes with it, but it basically has the main points of what I've shared. So you haven't missed any content, but you've just missed the slideshow. It's clearly not as fun or enjoyable to listen to somebody talk without slides. So these are the slides that I had before intended for you. which we can, I'm just going back on those so that we can, I'm going to go the other way and we'll continue here. So thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So in terms of, sometimes we also tell ourselves stories, right? We convince ourselves like it's not that bad. Like maybe you're not really happy, but you're telling yourself because of a lot of other reasons, well, it's not so bad. I can hang in there. I have good this, and this. And so I'll just, and that's fine. If if you are rationalizing it and it's not to the point where you're like you really are unhappy and you know that and you're just trying to, you need to get out, you can do that. But I guess I say to people, if you're feeling like you're not really fulfilled, I think it's worth it to spend some time exploring how what other types of opportunities might be rewarding. And you don't have to go out and announce on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, hopefully you all are. If you're not, get on it. That's an important part of networking. But you don't have to go out there and announce I'm seeking a job. But you can certainly connect with people in some of these areas that you maybe are interested in exploring and do, your informational interview, or as I call it, career chat, right? Where, you may ask them, wondering if you might have 15-20 minutes of your time to chat with me a little more about your own experience or your own career and tips or advice you'd have for somebody contemplating this career. And then you can get information from them on, the pros, the cons, right? What they love about their job, what's not so fun. And you can really weigh in that kind of information can really weigh into, well, would that be a career for me? Maybe not, or maybe, or absolutely. So, so just being aware of that. I hate to see people stay in careers just because they're, oh, it's not that bad. I can handle it, buck it up, and I just, there's more to life than that, I guess. So fear of the unknown is one of the big reasons for people staying in an unfilling, career, because you don't know. You're right. And the unknown can be scary, right? The unknown can it can be overwhelming, like, oh, I don't know, it might not, and a lot of times we do the might not, could be, where you're sometimes making the situation or the outcome even worse, thinking of the worst case scenario, right? But it's normal to fear the unknown, although I will say that among the RPCB clientele, we probably have a higher threshold against, fear of the unknown, only because, we've all, dropped everything, gone to Peace Corps service and, didn't know, anyone or anything and, made it work. And we tend to like new adventures and new opportunities, but it can still be scary. Especially when you're leaving maybe a career where you do have certain stability and things like that. So I honor that and acknowledge that, and it's still worth definitely exploring. Okay, and then lastly, the lack of a clear plan for your career change, and that's what people don't know where to start, so they get overwhelmed and they end up not starting at all. So part of what we'll talk about here, and then of course in the mid-career, the relaunch boot camp, is going to be more getting a plan. And how do you start with the plan? What kinds of goals, like incorporating SMART goals, some of you know all about those already, of course, but different ways that you can make a career change plan that's digestible, and yet it's something to aspire to. Like, okay, I can do this. It's a challenge, but it can be for the better. So I wanted to show you just really quickly, there's several different models, right, of stages of career development, right? And your more traditional one is this one on top, which is much more related to age. I'm not a big fan of the age bound one because I just don't feel like it's limited to that anymore. But if you're talking about the traditional, right, in general, certainly the 0 to 14 is spot on, right? Your growth, kind of even developing those skills and interests, right, that play into your eventual. And then 15 to 24, certainly your teenage years, right? And then getting your degree and whatever you're getting it in and really coming into your own, who you are, and, you know, and your identity, who you see yourself as, right? And there's a lot of pressure in college to have that degree and what do you want to do, and, you know, all those kinds of things. And then you have more of, and you're exploring all of those, right? Then you have the third stage, you know, I mean, you know, they say, you know, 25 to 44 or whatever, but, you know, establishing yourself, right? You're finding your kind of niche, you're finding your area that really, you know, and you're advancing within whatever that career is, right? And again, as I said, I truly believe, and I believe, and there's, you know, the studies or research, I don't have the latest one. I'm just trying to think. The last that I had heard was that you will have, like, you could have 7 different, 5 to 8 careers, different careers altogether, not jobs in a career, careers altogether. And then you talk about how many different, you know, jobs you have in each of those, you know, times. That's a lot of different careers, right? And this model, to me, this older kind of one, is a little more outdated because it kind of almost leads you to believe, okay, so that's where you're establishing. And then 45 to 64, you know, it's just kind of, it's the big picture, right? So preserving, you know, what you've gotten, the increases that you've gotten, right? Your raises, your advancement, your, you know, all of those kinds of things, right? But that's also where I think a lot of us are coming to this from, right? Where we want to explore some of our passion areas, right? We want to, you know, have more work-life balance. So it might be, you know, that's why a lot of times in that stage, people are looking for change, right? And then you have this last change, and I don't really like the title of it, decline, right? It sounds so negative. But really, you know, looking at, you know, you're comfortable, you're kind of looked at as the senior person, you know, and it's kind of preparing to, you know, to transition out, right? Preparing for retirement whenever that is. And, you know, granted, it's not always at 65 these days. There are people who work way beyond that, and that's great because they want to, others because they need to. And, you know, so it's not so much I mean, it could go much, much longer than that here. So I just want to point out that at the bottom, you have more like modern stages of career development. And again, you're going to have different models, but it's less confined to certain ages and more of something that could be cyclical each time you're choosing like a different career, right? So kind of that assessment, you know, you're looking at, you're tapping into resources. What can help me find what I want to do next, right? And you know, what kind of book, what kind of resources online, things like that, you know. And Rhonda's, you know, her My Career Design Studio is great. It walks you through the whole process, and it's a mosaic, and she sends these really, you know, great emails that kind of motivate you to, you know, oh, I gotta act on that. Like, it's easy to put things aside, right? And just not do it. And then time passes and another year passes, and there you are saying, oh, I was gonna change careers last year. And it just can kind of keep going. So I like the below one where, you know, that assessment, your investigation, where you're doing the research, right? You're talking to people in career chats, right? You're looking online, getting a lot of information. You can get information from the Department of Labor sites on different stats on different kinds of occupations, right? Lots of things there. Preparation, preparing for it. You're getting yourself trained for, if there might, you know, you might be looking at doing a change in career, and you know what? There might be some additional training that's needed. Maybe you need to be get certified in something, get a certification. And boy, now's the time to do that during COVID. A lot of times, right? People are offering a lot of trainings free, actually, and even some of the certification ones. But you do pay then if you want to get, like, to get the paper that says you're certified, if you will. I've heard of some like that as well. But you might need to get some kind of, you know, prepare for it, right? And then, you know, so all of these stages, right? I mean, there's the 6 stages here, the fourth one there of, you know, commitment, right? So you're committing to it, you're doing what it takes, you're, you know, getting the education or training or getting your foot in the door. You might need to start maybe lower than what you were, you know, you were on this path to, like, you know, you're really high level, but you decide you want to do something different with your life and with your career. Realize that you're not going to just bounce over to another career and then be able to retain your salary and your whatever, all of those other kinds of things. I mean, that's going to be one of the give and takes that you factor in to whether or not it makes sense for you to do this. Okay. But I can tell you as well, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that whole your gut and your own personal happiness and well-being is so instrumental. And I think first and foremost in many, many cases. So, and then the fifth, retention, right? You're staying, you gain time in that position, you gain the respect, you gain, all of that. And then, then that transition, it's like, oh, okay, I've gotten where I want to go. I'm now looking at something different, and it's transitioning to another thing, which just has you start again, right? With that assessment, investigation, all of that. So I prefer the second model, the more modern one, just because it's more intuitive, I think, and more makes more sense in today's reality. So, okay, are there some questions that are out there so far, Danielle? Are there some that have come up that you can help me?
There was only one that I saw from earlier, asking about if there was a different time for the boot camp. And then there's also a comment in the chat if you could maybe speak a little bit slower.
Sure. Sorry. That is one of my challenges. I am a very quick speaker, and I apologize. So thank you. I will definitely take that into consideration here and do my best. You said one of them was about the boot camp and if there was a different time. The time for it that was created was the 2 p.m. to was set up, was based in part on the facilitator's availability. She's a consultant for us and has another, job. So trying to get that worked out. So we were doing it at the same time that we did the other one. Now, if there's a lot of people, I guess if you have like where you absolutely have no flexibility for that 2 to 3:30 slot, I guess put that, I would reach out to me and just indicate that to see, or maybe register and just put in there your like when you would be available, if there's like comments or something where you can put that, because I guess certainly it's something that we want to do when the majority of people can be there, right? And I understand some people have conflicts at certain times, like I do at certain days where I absolutely can't do something. If you can't, this won't be the only one that we do, but it certainly is. We try to do a twist on it, but we could maybe see what we could do. Yeah, so let me know if that absolutely can't work. But okay, so let's go on a little bit here. I just wanted to put this up here. Moving over, quote unquote, over, like lateral. It is the new. Yeah, I mean, it's the new, like, I might, moving over is the new up, right? So whereas people have traditionally looked to move up always, right? There's that societal kind of pressure, if you will, even, right? The expectation that, of course, the longer you are in a job or in a company, you should always be moving up, right? That's from society oftentimes, right? But there's a new concept that I really like, and a new trend. Moving over is the new up. So the lateral move, or dare I say, and I know some people may go, "Oh, no way, moving down," right? But what I mean is, you may, like, moving in some careers, right? If you're changing career, you may not be able to start at the same level that you've gained, in your own profession. So you may need to take either a lateral, or even maybe coming in less paid, but with the potential of more, right? Things like that. So it's, I guess, giving a little more permission to I think it also gives a little more permission of that moving lateral, right? And instead of just having to be on that, eternal stairs of, moving up, pressure of moving up. And I will tell you, and I started to share with you earlier a little bit, I alluded to it. I am a prime example of somebody who has made a conscious decision to get off of that up, up ladder, right? Because I've found what I'm passionate about. And what I'm passionate about is working in the career development area and the career, job coaching arena, right? Particularly with RPCVs, which I've been fortunate to do for 12 years at Peace Corps headquarters and now at NPCA. So this is what I love. You are who I love, and doing what I enjoy most with the population that I'm most passionate about is so huge for me that that overshadows that whole moving up. Like, could I make more money in a different field? Certainly. Would I want to? No. I absolutely love what I'm doing. And of course, there's the fine line. I mean, there's a line too. I mean, you can't necessarily work for free, right? Unless you have, some trust fund that will pay for your expenses. But what I'm saying is, there's that promotional potential and the earning more money that I've intentionally stepped away from. I've done management and haven't enjoyed it, as I said, as much. I mean, I've enjoyed parts of it, but I really miss the connection and that physical and virtual like connection with the client and helping them and training and adult education. All of those areas are what I love. And that's what lights me up. And so to what to if I had given up on that to do the, keep going up in the ladder just to go up, I would have been miserable. And so that was my own situation. I don't know if any of you have situations like that, but I did see someone, Megan, understand that. Absolutely great. So so it's key. I mean, that just listening to, yourself as well and listening to your gut, as this slide says, right? Go with your gut. So, trying to release that societal expectation of, what you should do, or sometimes it's not societal, huge. It might be parents, relatives, your family who have expectations of you. Oh, well, you went to law school, you need to practice law, whatever it is, right? So trying to let go of those things and really put yourself, your well-being as a priority, because it really is. You can't be your best self if you're miserable. How many of you have ever been miserable in a job? Absolutely miserable. If you can, either on the participants, just raise your hand so I can see, let's see, of the people who are here. Yep, definitely. Great. Yes. So several. Me, yes, absolutely. And
And I did my best to make sure everyone around me was, apparently.
what's that?
And apparently I did my best to make sure everyone around me was getting pretty miserable also.
Okay. I love it.
Not proud of it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, that feeling, can you just remember for a moment? I mean, just think about and feel it in your body. How did you feel when you were in that company? How did it feel to wake up each morning, to get dressed, to get a shower, right? To go into that office when you hated it, right? That is not a feeling that you want to have. And I will say there are times in your life where you don't have a choice. You have to, for example, take a job, any job, maybe, if you had come back, and were evacuated and you're still looking for that, like what you really want to do. But boy, that readjustment allowance didn't last that long, right? So you needed to get something quickly. So you took something and you may not like it. You may be miserable, things like that, right? But my point with this is, you can, I mean, that's not a fun feeling. It's not a good feeling. So doing what you can to control that and to end that so that it doesn't, go on for a long, long time is, I think, really important. And that's putting yourself first, listening to your gut, and and just doing, at least, like starting to look at opportunities or talking to people or something, some little bit that you can do. So, and I apologize, my cat is somewhere right around here making a whole bunch of noise, and I apologize. She's like, so great. So go with your gut, as I was saying. Great. And then I do want to also make a point of talking momentarily about, briefly, about moving on from difficulty, from failure, right? Maybe you know, you were let go from a job, whether it was your most recent job or another job, and that's not a fun experience. But is it the end of your career? Absolutely not. Failing is a condition of the human, right? I mean, we all fail in one way or another, or many ways, right? In many ways. So the stats show that actually the majority of people at some point in their life will be let go from a position, right? So people who are fired think, oh, that's going to be, you know, my, you know, it's going to mark my rest of my career. I'm not going to be able to ever get a job. Absolutely not. People are not, you're not always the right fit for a job, right? There could have been something else with, you know, who knows, you know, just like personality type of thing. It could have been whatever. There are lots of reasons, right? So, if you failed, if you were fired, what I recommend is that be honest with yourself, right? And, you know, what did you do to contribute to it? Now, sometimes it's not at all what you did, right? But looking at how did you play into that? Maybe, you know, in addressing your own, you know, maybe you know, made a mistake on, you know, some big campaign and it cost the company money. And they decided when they were downsizing, they let you go because, you know, that you versus the other three or whatever, right? So, what you really want to focus on is the lessons learned, and this is really true when you're interviewing and you're, you know, moving on. You want to talk about, you know, how, you know, what you learned from that. So admit what happened. You know, I was working in a team and whatever in this campaign, and I made the mistake of going with and that decision cost the company, you know, and here's what I learned from that experience. I learned to always double check whatever it is that you learned, right? The outcomes. And I'm really comfortable, and I've gained a lot more comfort. I took some more training in that area, and I feel a lot more comfortable in, you know, in going forward, something like that, right? You want to really bring it to that positive. Try to remain positive even when, like, if you worked for the like terrible boss, you know, from, I mean, just horrible boss, right? Worst boss ever. Never stoop to the, oh, my boss, he was this. Don't name call, don't badmouth, because you never know in this world how, who they might know. And you never want to, you want to focus, remain very positive and just keep things, you know, in a positive sense, right? It wasn't a good fit. It, you know, whatever it is, like when you're talking about it. Okay. So, and I like this quote a lot. I mean, I just think, you know, if you just take a moment to read this one on the right, I just, you know, it's really all about focusing your energy, you know, don't fight the old, but rather embrace, or, you know, like, you know, what you're moving toward, right? And put your focus on that, because people want to hire people who are, you know, are positive, are team players, you know, all those kinds of things. So you really want to come out as that. Okay. In terms of who can help, and I realize, my goodness, we're almost to the end of our hour here. I'm fine to stay on for a little bit, but I certainly want to give you the opportunity to leave whenever you need to as well. Who can help you in terms of, you know, getting career advice? You know, your network, your current network, and your expanded network, as you know, utilize LinkedIn to find people who maybe are part of the Peace Corps family who work in different sectors. You can do that people search, right? Or the industry, you know, former company they worked for, fill in Peace Corps, just Peace Corps, nothing else. And then current company, fill in whatever company you're trying to get a job at. And you see who might be in that, you know, in that network, right? And you can always look to expand, you know, your LinkedIn as you meet other people, invite them to LinkedIn afterwards. Things like that can always, you know, help in that situation. And then, you know, career chats, I already talked about a little bit earlier. Doing, you know, I just like to call them career chats instead of informational interviews, because it rolls off your tongue faster and doesn't sound like an hour. You know, when you just career chat, 15-20 minutes at your convenience for a career chat. You don't even have to call it a career chat if you don't want to. but you can definitely get a lot of guidance there, as well. Of course, career professionals, right? So there's a ton of career coaches that are out there, career counselors. Some of you can access even I mean there are some like universities that still, like, they have no time limit of which you can tap into their resources. I realize many of you, like me, are have been out of college for many years, but that could even be one. Or sometimes you can get mentors who are in the same kind of field that you're looking at, asking somebody to really kind of mentor and work with you in that regard. Definitely, I'm here if you have questions, if you have concerns. Please email me always. Danielle, can you put my email in the chat box there, please?
Yes,
Thank
I'll
you
do
so
that
much.
now.
Thank you so much. You can certainly reach out to me at NPCA, right? At peacecorpsconnect.org. Just Jody at. And I'm happy to chat with you as well. You can take advantage of our different programs that we have, like the boot camp and other things. So lots of help for you, but there's a lot of really good also online help. I mean, some of you may remember the classic book, and it's the most, I think, most famous career decision making and planning and job search handbook. It's called What Color is Your Parachute by Richard Bowles. Hugely, it's very, very, very famous. And it's still very relevant because it's updated every year or two. So it's got all the latest on social media, and I think that's an area that I do want to say really try to embrace. And I know, like you, there are certain things that I am maybe many of you aren't so gung ho on, all of the different social media channels, and I get that. But if you're going to choose only one for your job search, let it be LinkedIn. 620 million users in 200 countries. This is far and beyond just the United States. And you can just find, if you're in groups with people, you're in the same groups, you automatically have rights to instant message them independently without first inviting them to be your contact. They don't have to be in your network. So there's lots of things like that that can help you. And there's lots of, actually, on our on the global reentry, it's the playlist of NPCA's their YouTube channel. Danielle, do you mind dropping that in there too? The playlist there will give you, there's like 80 some different webinars on different topics. You can listen to those at your convenience and get other assistance. So a lot of the stuff that I've talked about with LinkedIn, there's several on there about LinkedIn specifically, right? You can also reach out to look at LinkedIn, their help area. When you go to linkedin.com, they have so many videos and workshops on how to make the most of it. The only thing I would say with that is, don't worry about doing the premium, the one that you pay for. You do not need to pay for that. That's really more helpful for employers if they get a lot of additional features. The only thing, it allows you to have unlimited searches. And so if you're doing a lot in a month, if you're going to do a ton of just identifying resources, then do their freebie 1 month, where they force you to they have you put in you put in your credit card, so that after a month, if you're still on, they're going to start charging you every month. But as long as you mark your calendar to definitely stop that, you can do as many searches as you want and milk it for all it's worth, free, and then not need to. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Okay. And finding the right path, I guess, what I talk to people about, and again, the boot camp will focus on this too, but looking back on your career so far, right? One of the exercises, really thinking about what were the most rewarding jobs that you had, right? And why? What was it about them? Was it the contact with the client? Was it the leadership? What was it that you got to do? Was it that you got to work a non-traditional hours? What that kind of stuff. Find what you really loved about your past. And you all have probably lots of different experiences, right? So also seeking insight, like I've already said, from people, who know you, have them, getting insight from them, not necessarily what should I do with my life? What, tell me what I should do. But, when you talk to them, what are some of would you say are my key skills? And if you're willing and they're willing to share, and key challenges, what are the things that I probably need to work on if I hope to work in that career? And maybe they might come out with, you got to get a little more up on technology. Maybe you need to, master whatever, surveys or something. So just taking that and going with it. And then the other two here are just really, there's a different journaling activity that I just wanted to put out to you all in case you aren't participating in the other. But writing yourself a letter, just having a journal and writing yourself a letter from 20 years from now, right? Like pretend like you are 20 years in the future, you're writing your present self, right? So what do you want to have accomplished by then? What so that you can communicate that, and then you can look back on it and, okay, these are the things that I want. This is what's different from where I'm at, right? And then there's another one that's like 100 dreams, where literally, you write, you just jot out what are 100 dreams you have, dreams of what you want to do, what you want to become, what you want, things you want to accomplish, things you want to, have experienced, I should say. Some of them could be things like get certified in scuba diving, things like that, right? And then lastly, there's a lot of different career assessments that are free, and there's some others that are paid. I mean, people think of, I think, Myers-Briggs as the big one, where you get the four letters. Like I'm a classic, ENFP, right? And it tells you a little more about, like, okay, ENFPs, like, there's certain things that we're really good at. There's other things that we're not so good at, like decision making. We want to keep the options open. We want to explore and look, and a lot of Peace Corps folks tend to be that, because we're all about, like, envisioning and dreaming and all of that. So the opposite of that would be like that hard set decision making, boom, 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 and really, and if that's your skill, that's great. You're more of a J, and that's the Myers-Briggs. But there's lots of different ones, right? There's the Keirsey temperament. There's strength finders, where you get some of your different strengths and things like Woo. One of mine's Woo. Woo is like the liking to present, liking, addressing, crowds. A lot of people hate that, but so there's some really good assessments that you can do to help if you're feeling like you don't know what path for yourself. And again, the first two sessions, the pre-boot camp sessions, for the mid-career professional boot camp, is going to focus on more helping you. If you're feeling like you don't know what you want to do, that's the one for you. I mean, that's the not prerequisite, but it's encouraged. That would be doing that one before the regular boot camp.
Hey, come in.
So, hey, all right, great. So, resume writing is just a few, my goodness, it's already after here. I just want to say, emphasize your transferable skills when you're doing your resume. And as a mid or senior, career professional, really, you want to limit the amount of experience that you're sharing oftentimes, because you don't want them to see you. Unfortunately, when they see you as very experienced, 25, 30 years of experience, what do they assume? You're going to retire tomorrow, or, oh, she's probably not great on computers, or he's probably not great on computers, things like that in technology, right? And you don't want that. So you want to limit it generally. Really, your most recent 15 years of experience is really the critical part. Now, what you might do is have another section that has, like, maybe it's even titled earlier work experience, and you don't have dates, and you just have some of the items. That could help you, but also starting with a strong profile, or I should say, like, key qualifications, where you're really emphasizing the different skills that you have, can and getting, all of that, that wealth of experience kind of up there. It can be really helpful. Okay. So that's what I want to say there. And then functional or combination style. I mean, the advantage of it, there's pros and cons of functional, and a lot of people will say no to functional resumes. I think a functional resume can be okay. It can be good if you're like, maybe you're completely changing direction, and you have, to try to de-emphasize, for example, you've been a teacher, teaching grade school or whatever, English for, 15, 20 years, and you're now looking to do something that's totally different. Coming in with a traditional, where it's teacher, 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 is going to typecast you as a teacher, right? When you really want to make that other case. So, so that might be a reason to use it, right? But I kind of like the combination style where you basically have your different experiences, but then underneath them, you maybe have, you know, project management or whatever those topics would be from the functional resume, because look at my webinar on functional resume if you're interested in learning more on this. I just don't have time to go into it too much, or call me, reach out to me, and I'm happy to chat with you about it as well. But I think in general, like the combination or your regular, you know, is going to be the best, but really emphasize the amount of different experiences that you have and leave off some of the things that aren't as applicable you could. What questions do folks have? Are there any that have come up? I know we're kind of we're at the end, definitely. I'm sure some have had to leave already, and I totally understand that. SMART goals, I think many of you know about these, right? But, you know, making them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based, so that you can know when you reach that goal, right? That when you're doing goal setting in your career planning can be really helpful. So it might be, you know, do 2 career chats per week, you know, in the area of blah blah, whatever the area is, right? So getting more like time specific, or, you know, like where you know you've reached it, you either did it or you didn't, right? That can help you stay on track as well. Okay, so any questions, Danielle, that are in?
Someone was confused about the functional or the combination style resume, but I know we're short for time, so I could just direct them to the webinar
Yeah,
on
can you look
YouTube.
up,
And
Danielle, if you can just look up the one that's on the functional versus chronological resume is I think what it's called. That would be great. And you can reach out to me, Megan, if you have questions on it. It's just a different resume style that's not like the typical where you have your professional experience and you go backwards, reverse chronological. You don't have any of the chronology really, I mean, in it. In the skills, you have different skills categories up front, and then you have a section below that just says work history that has no description. It just has the organization's name, their location, your job title, and the dates, nothing else. Because theoretically, all of the meat or content from that job description has been put into that first page, that first area where it's the skills, like, you know, you might have project management, communication, whatever the skills are related to that job. So, but happy to chat with you more on that. I could talk about that all night. And so awesome. Great. So that's what we have, folks, and we are at the Q&A. So I just want to thank all of you for hanging in there tonight, especially with the non-working slides in the beginning and such. But thanks so much for that. And what additional questions, if any, do you have? And at this point, you're welcome to even take yourself off mute if you prefer and just ask the questions. So happy with that as well. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording, and then we'll go ahead and I'll answer some more questions, and I'll stay on for a little while in case people want to do that. So thanks everyone for joining us, and make it a great day or night.